Hello, my name is Ray Roberts, and I am the managing partner of the Academic Partnership. I am also the founding member of APEA, the Association for Professional Educators Abroad. Today, I want to take a couple minutes to talk to you about objectives. Why do we have objectives? Why are they important? I also want to talk to you about how to write objectives, how to make objectives smart. So, let's talk about why we have objectives. Anytime we give a lesson, we should have a plan for our students, the purpose of the lesson. And our objectives are the purpose. And that purpose is what we want students to be able to do by the end of the lesson. Do we want them to be able to identify the subject of a sentence? So, are we going to ask students to underline the subject of a sentence or circle the verb? Maybe we want the students to be able to count from 1 to 5. How would we how would we be able to measure the student being able to count for 1 to 5? Will they be able to pick up 5 sticks, or will they be able to say aloud their numbers from 1 to 5? Well, would be examples of objectives. So, objectives are skills that we want the student to be able to do or apply to something within context by the end of the lesson. So all objectives must be SMART. Now, before we move on to SMART, I just want to make one point. We have to make sure when we look at objectives, we're looking at the idea from the idea of skills and not materials. So it's skills that we want them to be able to do, not materials that we want them to remember. It's very important. So let's talk about SMART objectives. If we're going to write objectives, which we must, and we're going to write a lesson plan for our class, which we must, we have to make sure our lessons are SMART so it can guide our instruction in a very effective and efficient way. And SMART objectives does that. Okay, so let's talk about SMART. The S in SMART stands for specific. Every objective must be specific. We're going to ask students to do a specific task that demonstrates that they are able to do the task, apply the task, and even master the task. Secondly, the objective must be measurable. You, as the teacher, or any other professional or parent, or maybe even other students, or the student themselves, must be able to measure whether they were able to do that task. For instance, going back to the example of underlining the subject, we would ask the student to underline the subject of a sentence. And if they underline the subject, everyone can measure whether they underlined the subject. And if they didn't underline the subject and they underlined the object or the verb, we'll be able to reteach or ask the question in a different way. So all objectives should be measurable and must be measurable. If you cannot measure it, it's not a SMART objectives. So for my writing teachers, it's very important that we remember when we give a student a task that we assign a rubric. A rubric makes our writing or other tasks measurable. Let's move on to our next letter in the acronym SMART. A. A stands for attainable or achievable. Some people say achievable. That means that the student should be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time, and it's appropriate, it's within the student's ability. We're not going to ask a third grader to read something on a 11th grade level unless we've already established that that third grader has that ability to do so. So we're going to make sure that everything, all the tasks that we ask the students to do, all the skills that we ask the students to master and apply are within their ability and that they're appropriate. Some people say that the A stands for appropriate. So attainable, achievable, appropriate for the student. The next letter is ARA, realistic. Again, we want to make sure the student it's authentic, it's realistic, it's something that the student is within the context of a student. Okay, we want to make sure that the student really needs it, really can use it. If we're asking students to do something that's not applicable to them, something that they really don't need, they're probably going to get bored, and then that's when you will experience and the student will experience fight, flight, and freeze. So we want to make sure that everything that we give the students is within context, that it's relevant for the student, not for you, but for the student, given in proper context. And the last letter in SMART is T, timely. We want to make sure the students can do whatever you ask them to do in the allowed amount of time within that class period, within that instructional block. So if you have a 45-minute block of instruction, we want to make sure the student has enough time to do that task within that 45 minutes or within that 20 minutes, or whatever you assign in your lesson plan. If it's a series of tasks that may take a longer period of time, make sure that you block off, or that you separate the larger tasks, you break them into smaller pieces. What's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So if there's a big project that may take a week, then you're going to assign that big project into smaller tasks that fit within your instructional block. I hope this conversation about SMART objectives and the reason why we should have objectives is beneficial to you. Thank you for your time. Be someone's champion.